What is going on, guys? Money Webby here, back again, week 6, with my first look at the DFS slate for the week. We got 10 games, not as many smash spots, I feel like, as we had last week. Just a crazy scoring week. We had with like just everyone popping off in good spots: Watson, Will Fuller, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, just some guys going nuclear, leading to some huge scoring lines. I don't think we'll see the same thing this week, but there's still obviously some guys gravitating towards, and I think they're in good spots this week. So I'm going to be mentioning my preliminary kind of 6 core guys. I think that makes for a solid lineup that you can run out there, that you can kind of build around them. Obviously, things change. It is Tuesday today. So some things will change during the week, but that's why I'm going to be updating my second video on Friday with my updated picks. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, you can definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on that. If you're watching this video right now and you happen to be new here, we're closing in on the 8,000 subscribers, so thank you for all the support. Drop a like in the video as well. It goes a long way. It really helps me out to get my video out there to people. Let's try to get over 100 likes in this one. Let's hop right into it. So first guy up, not the sexiest pick, has a terrible rep right now, but Kirk Cousins here at 5,200, going against one of the biggest funnel defenses in the NFL. So those are things I always want to target. When a defense is very good at one thing, like the Eagles are against the running game, and their passing defense is just so bad in comparison to that, the Vikings are going to have to open it up here. I mean, they still didn't really have to open it up that much last game, but in a limited sample, I mean, not sample, but a work kind of for Kirk Cousins to the passing game, 27 attempts. He was very efficient. I mean, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 23 DraftKings points. So I think he has that kind of upside, over 300 yards in this game, can throw for a few touchdowns, and we're getting him at the same price tag at 5,200. The Vikings proved to their coaching staff they can do it through the air with Adam Thielen. You got Stephon Diggs, 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, that's one of the best combos you can ask for out of a receiving core in the NFL nowadays. And going against the Eagles, I think they're going to have to turn to their passing game more. Similar to what they kind of did against Chicago. Dalvin Cook couldn't get going. That's a very solid defense in total and like totality, including the passing defense. So that kind of made them struggle besides that without the running game getting going. But we saw in just other matchups against the Eagles, we saw most recently with Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones couldn't get anything going in that game against the Eagles, but Rodgers still threw for over 400 yards, I think. He had 30 DraftKings points, and they've allowed some big performances this year, including one to Matt Ryan. He threw 3 picks. He still got 25 DraftKings points. Case Keenum had 30 DraftKings points week 1 against the same secondary. They're allowing the 5th most passing yards per game, so really good upside for Cousins here at a good price tag. Allows you to pay up at other positions. And like I said, that funnel defense are allowing the 2nd fewest rushing yards to running back. So they're going to have to go away from Dalvin Cook, I think, in this game and rely on a good receiving core with Diggs and Adam Thielen. I think they can do it. I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as my quarterback. Then we're going to go with another similar kind of player here, a guy that's been trending down, but LeVeon Bell. I think this is where it trends up for him in this matchup. Sam Darnold looking like he's coming back. Was announced today. He is going to return. Obviously, things could change. If that changes, it won't be as positive for Le'Veon Bell heading into this week. But Luke Folk was an absolute disaster at quarterback. I mean, their offense, I don't think could be any worse. Every single drive, it was either like a 3-and-out or them getting like a 2-yard Le'Veon run, another 2-yard run, then like a sack, or a first down and then like a sack and a punt or something. It was just these ugly drives. They were barely able to get over midfield every single game without Sam Darnold, but they actually held their own. Well, Le'Veon Bell at least held his own against Buffalo week 1. I mean, he put up 92 yards, not too bad. The touches were there again, 23, and had 23 DraftKings points to show for it. So that was his best performance so far this year. And he's just the eye test has been there for him, for me at least. When I've been watching him, I still see that vision, that ability to avoid tackling. And against Dallas here, they've been one of the worst tackling teams over the past 2 weeks. We saw Aaron Jones last week put on a show against them. I believe he had 9 missed tackles, or 8 missed tackles last week. And the week before that, against Alvin Kamara, he had 9 missed tackles. So in 2 weeks, they've allowed rushers to go for 17 missed tackles. So LeVeon Bell, similar style player, can make guys miss, can break some tackles. I think he can put this Cowboys team to another test here, really testing their angles with their pursuit. I saw Aaron Jones able to bounce it out outside in these draw plays consistently, and that's where Le'Veon Bell makes his money, just being able to set up a defense inside, make them over pursuit, and bounce it out and have some big gains. So I see that coming here. Sam Darnold, obviously huge. Also getting Chris Herndon back, who was a promising tight end last year, off suspension. So things are trending up here. We're getting them at a cheaper price tag at $6,400. So this is one of my strongest takes, I feel like, of the week. When I first pulled up the salaries, I was like, Le'Veon Bell is going to come through this week. Dallas, their defense just hasn't looked good. I watched that whole game against the Green Bay Packers, and some big holes, some really bad tackling angles, like I'm trying to say over and over again. So Le'Veon Bell, I think a big week is coming. Lock him in there. And for my second running back, we're going to go with Derrick Henry. The workload has been there. 20 carries last game, 27 carries the game before. Not the craziest of upside, but he's been consistent at least. 13, 14, 11, 17, 28. And in this game, I think he can have one of those big performances like we saw in week 1 where he's able to put up multiple touchdowns. I think he'll be a little bit more efficient running the ball. They were able to get their left tackle back, Taylor Lewan, last week, and he's probably their best offensive lineman, I would say, along with Saffold. So that's a big gain. They should be able to run the ball very well on the left side against this Denver defense. Their rushing defense got exposed on the left side, actually, against Leonard Fournette 2 weeks ago. Went for over 200 rushing yards. So I think he has over 100 rushing yard upside, over a touchdown, honestly, in this game. He's been getting the red zone looks. I think they'll be able to get up in this game. So a positive game script always works in the favor of Derrick Henry. And I think he can go over 20 DraftKings points. Price tag is pretty consistent. Not a sexy pick. Definitely in cash games, maybe a little bit more viable, as he doesn't have that huge explosion upside. I still think he'll be very, very solid in this matchup, one of the better matchups he's had in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as my second running back. Then we're going to go with wide receiver. We're going to be a little bit risky here, but I think Adam Thielen will garner most of the ownership in that stack with Kirk Cousins. So obviously I love Adam Thielen, as I'm recommending Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to be a little bit more risky here to maybe hope that Thielen doesn't catch the touchdowns. I think both of these guys have yardage upside. But it's going to come down to who catches the touchdown, probably to who has a better day. And we're getting better value on Stephon Diggs. So Diggs in this matchup, this is the matchup, like I said, where they're going to have to pass the ball. And whenever they've had to pass the ball, the 2 games that they had against Chicago, 7 targets. Against Green Bay, 7 targets. 10 DraftKings points, not bad. He had that big touchdown and actually had a touchdown called back. And he also had a fumble. So this could have been a bigger game. This could honestly have been like a 20-point game if he didn't get that. He had like maybe a 10-yard touchdown. It was like a weird kind of OPI on Dalvin Cook. So if that doesn't get called back, if he doesn't fumble, we're talking a different narrative on Stephon Diggs here. We're looking at him where he's having big games in games where they have to pass. 7 targets, like I said, in both these games. The air yards checked out pretty well, averaging around 120 air yards in both of these games as well. And like I said, I think this game will be pretty competitive. I could see the Vikings getting down in this game. I think the Eagles have a very solid offense. That they have been sputtering a little bit without Deshaun Jackson. But I think in this game where it's going to be a little bit more competitive, I think Doug Peterson will be able to scheme something up a little bit better. Against the Jets, they kind of were in cruise control, didn't really need to be that good an offense. We're just kind of running clock in the fourth quarter. So it wasn't a game where they had to do much. But this game should be more competitive, more passing. The Vikings have a solid rushing defense as well, so that can help with just the pace of the game, helping the passing offenses. So 5,900 here. Think Diggs is a great GPP play with the upside against a Philadelphia secondary, like I've been mentioning, is a funnel defense, allow a ton to wide receivers. He went for 10 catches for 91 yards and 11 targets in the same matchup last year. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as my 4th player. And for my 5th player, we're going to go with Larry Fitzgerald, coming off a disappointing game. A lot of people were on him without Christian Kirk and this high passing offense that the Arizona Cardinals have. But things have been trending down a little bit the last 2 games. Against Seattle, they were kind of ran over. Didn't have to didn't get that same kind of play volume they had been getting over the course of the year. And against Cincinnati, they were able to run the ball very well. Kyler Murray had like 10 rushes for like 90 yards. David Johnson had around 15 carries or so for like 90 yards. Also, Chase Edmonds chipped in pretty well. So in that game, they were able to run the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to do that in the same fashion in this matchup against Atlanta. Also, David Johnson a little bit banged up. They're saying a back injury, might not even play this week. So obviously that will limit their offense a little bit and make them have to lean more on a guy like Larry Fitzgerald here. And also Christian Kirk, highly questionable again. I'm assuming that they hold him out for one more week. As it was a high ankle sprain, obviously we don't have the full kind of knowledge of what's going on in that situation, but I'm assuming he's going to be out as of now. And Larry Fitzgerald had a 25% target share last week on just 32 passes. So say you expand that out a little bit against Atlanta. Say they throw 40 passes. That's around 10 targets for Larry Fitzgerald, which is a good target amount. You always will take 10 targets at 6,100. And if you can find the end zone, I think he has a really good upside against an Atlanta team that is allowing the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as my fifth player. And for the guy to round it off of the money six, we're going to go with a little chalky pick here. Austin Hooper, tight end, absolute wasteland this year. Austin Hooper, as consistent as it gets. You're talking 16, 7, 24, 25, and 13. I think he's just a square one play this week. You start with Austin Hooper. You work your lineup around him because I think he is so safe and his upside is great in this matchup. Arizona, one of the biggest obvious kind of matchups in the NFL. Their tight end defense has been atrocious. Guys just running wide open. We saw week 1, TJ Hawkinson, uncontested catches. He had like over 100 yards. Greg Olsen had a huge week. Will Disley had a nice week. Mark Andrews had a huge week, over 100 and a score. And in those 4 games, they allowed 18-plus fantasy points for all those guys. Last week wasn't much of a test against Tyler Eifert and that Bengals offense. But this week here against Austin Hooper, I think they're going to be back to just getting bullied by tight ends. And Austin Hooper is the guy to do that. Target share has been great. He's running the most routes among tight ends so far in the season. So the price is a little bit soft. I honestly think if you look at this slate here, Houston been pretty good against tight ends. Obviously, Kelsey is very consistent, but I just think that Austin Hooper could easily be the tight end one on this slate, and you're getting him at $5,000, a solid price tag. I'm going to go ahead and lock him in there as my final play of the money six. My first look of the slate, a nice little core here. You got Kirk Cousins, LeVeon Bell, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, Larry Fitzgerald, and Austin Hooper. So I like it a lot. Obviously, things will change throughout the week. Some guy could stub his toe. Maybe Jalen Ramsey texts Stephon Diggs. He's like, hey, let's go on a vacation or something like that. Some things can change. So obviously on Friday, I'll have my updated picks there. Go a little bit deeper with a few guys at every position that I'm high on. We had pretty good success with our picks last week. Running backs were a little bit unlucky, I would say. Ezekiel Elliott ran into a terrible game script where he only ran the ball like 10 times, and I thought he was going to have a huge week if that game stayed close. Obviously, it didn't, which screwed him. But we had Will Fuller in the plays. We had Michael Thomas in the updated picks. We had, I mentioned Tyler Boyd had a really good game. We mentioned Deshaun Watson, Matt Ryan, 2 of the top scoring quarterbacks. And running back was a little bit down. David Johnson was still pretty solid. Didn't find the end zone, but his yardage was really good. So it could have been better, but it's close enough. We had some good picks. So drop a like in the video. If you're enjoying the content, it really helps me out. Over 100 likes would be appreciated. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out on any more picks going forward. Really good content here. Follow me on Twitter at MoneyWebby to get just my tweets, my stupid takes that I might have on Twitter. And I also tweet out my videos there if you miss or just forget about my video. But you shouldn't be forgetting. Good luck here if you don't watch my next video on the slate. And we'll see you back here again next time.